UK property just changed forever. Shocking new rules. Something huge is happening in the UK property market, and most people don't even realize it yet. While the headlines talk about rising taxes, stricter rules, and a collapsing housing sector, the real story is unfolding quietly behind the scenes. Small landlords are being pushed out, new taxes are tightening the noose, and yet, major corporations and investors are buying up entire neighborhoods like never before. What's really going on? Is this the end for ordinary property owners or the beginning of something much bigger? Stay tuned, because what's about to unfold could change the future of property ownership in Britain forever. Before starting the video, seniors, please, my request to you is to subscribe to my channel, like it, share the channel as much as possible, and send my channel link to your retired and pensioner brothers so that they also subscribe to my channel and support me. Please, please, I need your support very much. Please, seniors, subscribe to my channel. I promise all my senior brothers and sisters and pensioner brothers and sisters, and especially my retired brothers, that you will always get true news on my channel. In the end, I want to say a heartfelt thank you for your support. The UK property market is facing one of its most turbulent periods in decades. Everywhere you look, from the latest government briefings to upcoming budget leaks, the message seems to be one of uncertainty and concern. Many landlords, small investors, and everyday property owners are feeling the pressure. New rules, new taxes, and new thresholds are being discussed that could fundamentally reshape how ordinary people invest and manage their properties. There's talk of bringing the VAT threshold down to £30,000, which could put thousands of small landlords, tradespeople, and self-employed property managers at serious risk. On top of that, proposed changes such as national insurance contributions for landlords and the Renters Reform Bill are expected to increase costs and reduce flexibility for property owners. The overall feeling among small landlords across the UK is that the system is slowly squeezing them out. Yet, interestingly, while many small property owners are selling up due to these new tax burdens, large corporations and institutional investors are doing the exact opposite. If you attend a property auction right now, whether online or in person, you'll notice something unusual. Properties are being snapped up at record speed. Bidders are aggressively outbidding one another, suggesting that someone out there still sees massive opportunity in UK property. So, who's buying? While small landlords are struggling, large investment firms, pension funds, and overseas investors are quietly acquiring more and more residential property. This trend raises an important question. Why are the big players so confident in the UK housing market while small owners are being taxed to the brink? Part of the answer lies in how these new rules are structured. Many of the most damaging new taxes apply only to individuals, not to companies or trusts. For example, Section 24, introduced a few years ago, removed the ability for private landlords to claim mortgage interest as a business expense. This effectively means small landlords pay tax on their full rental income, not just their profit. But for large companies, this rule doesn't apply. They can still offset mortgage interest as a legitimate business cost. Now, with new national insurance proposals being discussed for landlords, things could become even more difficult. Imagine buying a second property for £200,000. You already face stamp duty charges of around £11,500 on top of your deposit and other fees. If you decide to sell later, you'll face capital gains tax of up to 28%. And throughout the time you own the property, you're paying income tax, and now potentially national insurance on your rental income. Add to that the increasing difficulties around tenants' rights under the Renters Reform Bill, which could make it even harder to evict non-paying tenants or regain control of your property, and it's easy to see why many landlords are beginning to sell off their portfolios. Meanwhile, companies operating under corporate structures are shielded from many of these burdens. They can continue building large portfolios, unaffected by rules like Section 24 or the proposed national insurance for landlords. Another major proposal on the horizon is the change in the VAT threshold. Currently, small property operators renting out short-term stays, for example, on Airbnb, can avoid paying VAT if their annual turnover is below £90,000. Under the new rules, that threshold could be reduced to £30,000. This would force many small landlords and property entrepreneurs into paying VAT, wiping out much of their already thin profit margins. This change is seen by many as a direct blow to small, independent operators who offer short-term rentals or serviced accommodation. These individuals often compete successfully with large hotel chains by offering affordable, flexible stays without the burden of heavy taxes. Reducing the VAT threshold effectively levels the playing field, but in a way that benefits large corporations, not small owners. Then there's the proposed wealth tax, another potential game changer. It's being framed as a way to ensure that the wealthiest contribute more. But the fine print tells a different story. Reports suggest this tax would apply to individuals who own property worth over £500,000, charging them an annual fee of around 0.5% of their property's total value. While that might sound like a fair approach to targeting wealth, it's expected that large corporations and property trusts will once again be exempt. This means the new wealth tax would mostly impact middle-class property owners, hardworking families who have perhaps invested in one or two properties as a pension plan or for future financial security. Meanwhile, the biggest investors would remain untouched. The long-term impact of this could be severe. The middle class, already under immense financial strain, could find themselves pushed out of property ownership altogether. The result? A market dominated by institutions and corporations, with ordinary people left behind. For decades, property in the UK has been one of the most reliable ways for individuals to build wealth and stability, but with rising taxes, stricter lending rules, and complex regulations, that dream is slipping further away. Everyday people are being told property is too risky, too expensive, or too complicated, while major investors are quietly buying up entire streets. It's a deeply frustrating situation. The government insists these reforms are designed to create fairness and stability in the housing market. Yet to many, it looks more like a gradual transfer of property ownership from private individuals to corporations and institutions. Another concern is how government messaging often conflicts with reality. We're told that these changes will help tenants reduce rent prices and make housing more accessible. But when small landlords leave the market, the supply of rental properties drops and rents rise. In other words, the very reforms meant to make housing more affordable could have the opposite effect. What's happening now could be described as the slow erosion of property ownership rights for ordinary citizens. Taxes and regulations are being designed in ways that make it almost impossible for small landlords to survive. Those who once relied on rental income for their retirement or as a supplement to their state pension are now facing impossible financial pressures. At the same time, the broader economic picture is worrying. Inflation remains stubbornly high, wages have failed to keep up with the cost of living, and many working families are struggling to make ends meet. It's no wonder that more and more people are turning to food banks, not just the unemployed or the homeless, but even nurses, teachers, and skilled professionals. The system seems to be rewarding large financial institutions while penalizing those who work hardest. The education system, too, seems to play a role in this cycle. Young people are being taught to pursue traditional career paths, work hard for decades, and rely on pensions that may no longer be sustainable. Financial literacy and independent thinking are rarely encouraged in schools. Instead, students are told to save their money in banks, institutions that use those very savings to generate wealth for themselves. It's a cycle that keeps ordinary people dependent and disempowered. And unless individuals begin to take control of their financial education and understand how money, property, and taxation really work, the gap between rich and poor will continue to grow. The key message here isn't about panic. It's about awareness. The UK property market is changing, and those changes will impact everyone, from landlords to renters, from pensioners to young professionals. Understanding how the new taxes, reforms, and rules work is the first step to protecting your finances. This isn't financial advice. It's a call to stay informed, think critically, and make sure you're planning ahead. Because the reality is, the government and big institutions will always prioritize their own interests first. It's up to each individual to make sure they're not left behind in the process. So, as the next UK budget approaches, keep an eye on the details. Pay attention to the discussions around national insurance for landlords, VAT thresholds, and wealth tax proposals. Each of these could have long-term consequences for property owners, retirees, and everyday citizens. At State Pension Update, our goal is to help you stay informed, understand these complex changes, and make sense of what they mean for your financial future. Because in times like these, knowledge truly is power, stay alert, stay informed, and as always, we'll keep you updated with every major financial and property reform impacting people across the UK. Second part of this video, let's start. Are you ready? Let's start now. The shift we're witnessing isn't just about taxation or regulation. It's about the redistribution of ownership and power. For generations, homeownership symbolized independence and financial freedom in the UK. But what happens when that freedom becomes unattainable for most people? As corporations tighten their grip on the housing market, ordinary citizens are being pushed into lifelong renting, unable to compete with the vast capital and tax advantages of institutional investors. What once was a nation of homeowners risks becoming a nation of tenants, reliant on entities that view housing not as shelter, but as profit-generating assets. For small landlords, this transformation feels like a betrayal. Many entered the property market not out of greed, but as a means of securing their family's future, a pension alternative in a time when retirement security grows increasingly uncertain. Yet the rules keep changing. With every new budget announcement, they face tighter margins, more bureaucracy, and fewer rights. The message seems clear. The era of the independent landlord is coming to an end. What replaces it, however, could be far less personal and far more corporate. The irony lies in the government's rhetoric. Officials talk about fairness and equality, but the actual outcome of these reforms appears to favor the biggest players. Large institutions have teams of accountants and legal experts to navigate loopholes, restructure assets, and minimize taxes. A small landlord in Leeds or Birmingham, however, doesn't have that luxury. For them, a new tax or rule can mean the difference between staying afloat and being forced to sell. As a result, many are leaving the market, and properties once owned by local investors are being absorbed by global funds. In the long run, this consolidation could reshape entire communities. Local landlords often have personal relationships with tenants. They understand their needs and circumstances. Corporate owners, on the other hand, tend to operate through automated systems and outsourced management firms, treating tenants as entries on a spreadsheet. The human element disappears, replaced by profit-driven algorithms and standardized rent increases. The housing market, once deeply connected to local culture and community, risks becoming an impersonal financial machine. Another emerging consequence is the shift in housing priorities. Institutional investors are more interested in large-scale developments and long-term rental models than in maintaining older, affordable properties. This means that the stock of reasonably priced homes is shrinking, while new builds often target higher-income tenants. The result? A growing divide between those who can afford the new luxury rentals and those struggling just to keep a roof over their heads. This could exacerbate the UK's housing crisis rather than solve it. It's also important to look at how these property changes interact with the broader economy. Rising mortgage rates, stricter affordability tests, and inflationary pressures have already squeezed household budgets. When landlords exit the market, supply decreases and rents rise, feeding directly into inflation figures. So while the government claims to be tackling inflation, its policies might be unintentionally making it worse by reducing the number of available rental homes. Meanwhile, overseas investors continue to pour money into the UK property market, viewing it as a safe haven. To them, the regulatory changes are minor obstacles compared to the long-term potential of UK real estate. As the pound fluctuates and property prices adjust, foreign buyers can pick up undervalued assets, particularly in London and major regional cities, further concentrating ownership among the wealthy elite. The average British citizen, in contrast, finds it increasingly difficult to even get on the housing ladder. What we're seeing is not just an economic shift, but a cultural one. Property has always been central to the British identity, a marker of success, stability, and pride. Yet today, that dream is slipping through people's fingers. First-time buyers face insurmountable barriers, small landlords are being edged out, and renters are caught in a system that seems designed to keep them dependent. If this trend continues, the very concept of home ownership could become something only the wealthy or institutional investors can achieve. And this transformation extends beyond housing. When people lose access to property ownership, they also lose access to one of the most powerful tools for building generational wealth. Home equity has long been the foundation of financial stability for millions of families. Without it, people become more reliant on debt, government support, and volatile rental markets. It's a slow erosion of independence, one policy at a time. However, despite this grim outlook, awareness is growing. More people are starting to question why certain policies disproportionately benefit large corporations. Online communities, independent financial educators, and grassroots property groups are beginning to share insights and strategies to help individuals protect their assets. Some landlords are forming limited companies to level the playing field, while others are diversifying into commercial or overseas investments. The key takeaway is that adaptation, not despair, is the only way forward. Still, change won't come overnight. The UK is entering a defining moment where citizens must decide what kind of property system they want for the future, one controlled by a few powerful entities or one that supports independent ownership and community wealth. The outcome will shape not only the housing market, but the nation's social fabric for generations to come. For now, staying informed remains the most powerful defense. As budgets evolve and new regulations emerge, those who understand the fine print will be best positioned to navigate the storm. Whether you're a landlord, a tenant, or simply someone planning for retirement, this is the time to pay attention. Because the future of property in the UK is being rewritten. And those who aren't watching closely may find themselves left behind when the next wave of changes arrives. As we reach the conclusion of this unfolding story, one thing becomes clear. The UK property market is no longer just about buying and selling homes. It's about power, control, and who ultimately benefits from the wealth generated by property. Small landlords and ordinary citizens are facing unprecedented challenges, while large institutions consolidate their influence, quietly reshaping the landscape. Yet even in this uncertainty, there is hope. Awareness and action can still make a difference. By staying informed, seeking expert advice, and exploring alternative strategies, individuals can protect their investments and continue to secure their financial future. Knowledge is the shield that allows ordinary people to navigate a market that increasingly favors the powerful. Ultimately, the message is simple but vital. The property market is evolving, and the decisions you make today will define your tomorrow. Don't let the rules, taxes, or regulations catch you unprepared. Whether it's restructuring your holdings, diversifying your assets, or simply understanding the implications of new policies, proactive steps are crucial. The dream of property ownership and financial security is not yet lost, but it requires vigilance, planning, and the courage to adapt. In this changing era, staying ahead of the curve isn't just smart, it's essential for anyone who wants to remain in control of their financial destiny. Thank you so much for watching today's update. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and share it with friends or family who might benefit from these insights. And make sure to subscribe to State Pension Update so you never miss the latest news, tips, and important changes that could affect your finances, property, or pension. We love hearing from you, so please drop your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Your feedback helps us cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we'll keep bringing you all the updates you need to make smart financial decisions. See you in the next video.